Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Leo for June 2018. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, check out what's new on my blog, and if you'd love to learn astrology, my Astrology Apprenticeship program is enrolling starting June 1st. So what's going on in the month of June? We have the eclipse rumblings already beginning. We have 2 eclipse seasons a year, and this is a time when there's an increase in probability that we will have dramatic, sudden trajectory changes, radical closures, accomplishments coming to fruition, dramatic endings, bright new beginnings, golden doors opening. So the eclipse season is upon us. We've got 3 eclipses in this season. We've got 2 in July and 1 in August. We can often feel eclipse manifestations 4 to 6 weeks before those eclipses, sometimes even more. So I'm talking about the first one in July here in June because it's very likely that many of you will start to see manifestations of that eclipse in June. So I'm going to break it down. There's the first eclipse I'm going to focus on in June. That's the partial solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Cancer, and I'll tell you where it's going to show up in the Leo chart. The second eclipse is July 27th, total lunar eclipse at 4, almost 5 degrees of Aquarius. In my July report, we'll focus on where Leo will see that in their chart. And August 11th, we'll talk about the third eclipse, partial solar eclipse at 18 degrees of Leo. Having an eclipse in your sign and then having another eclipse in your opposing sign, when you're in a cycle of eclipses with your sign involved, as we have been in since 2017, as we will be into 2019, it's a very major time for a very radical change for people with predominance of that sign. Okay, so if you have an important placement in Leo, you're getting your whole life reworked during this 27 to 2019 time frame. And it's a really big deal. You know, it's a very radical change, and you may find yourself unrecognizable in your life, unrecognizable in many ways, already, and then especially once you get past this eclipse cycle. So we've got some pretty big changes that are coming ahead, more changes, and you've already probably had quite a few. Okay, so some other things to be aware of before I talk about where this first eclipse is hitting for you. One thing is that Mars is finally starting its retrograde June 26th through August 26th. You can see more about this transit if you search for Annie Botticelli. It might even come up if you just put Annie Mars retrograde on YouTube, and also just in a general internet search, because I have a blog and a video on this that goes into lots more detail. I will talk about more in the general transit that follows this portion of the video, and I will mention some implications here. But it is a long transit because even though the transit itself is only 2 months, the shadow periods before and afterwards are long. So this started May 11th, gets even stronger, getting into June 26th, is full on until August 26th, then is still around until October 11th. Okay, so we really want to know what's going on here. One of the main things that goes on is most people will see a decrease in their ambitions, okay? And this is going to be true for most people, but there is a small percentage of people that might have the opposite effect. When you have Mars retrograde natally, you sometimes have and this goes true for all at Mercury, Venus, Mars, when you have those placements natally in your natal chart, you sometimes experience the general transits differently than other people. So like if you have Mercury retrograde at birth, when Mercury goes in retrograde, everyone else is freaking out and you're like, woo, this is really easy, easier than usual, because it can be the opposite for you. So that could be the same with this Mars retrograde. So there is a chance that some of you will have the opposite of what I'm describing, but you have to follow your own flow and see how it manifests for you. Most people, however, will notice a decrease in ambitions, more, laziness or disinterest in certain things, a lack of passion, lack of drive. Things that were going really strong may start to wane in romance, in business, in any other area of life, creativity. If you find that you're trying to do something and you're pushing up against it and you're getting this wall of resistance, it may be time to back off. That's one of the themes of this energy, this Mars retrograde energy, is that frustration will come if you ignore the signs that Spirit is saying back off. Okay, so there's basically this energy of the past happening at the same time as this energy of new things that can be coming from the eclipse cycle. Okay, so solar eclipses tend to bring in new things, and that's what we're going to focus on here is this solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Cancer. But sometimes there has to be an ending in order for the new thing to come. So endings and beginnings can be happening at the same time. Okay, so the solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Cancer on July 12th that you will very likely feel manifestations of sooner, including the whole month of June, is happening for Leos, early and middle degree placements in the 12th house. If you're a late degree placement, you might see 12th house manifestations, but you might also see 11th house manifestations. So we'll break that down and talk about what that can look like. Early and middle degree placements are basically the first 20 days of the sign. So the first 20 birth dates in the sign are the early degree. Or if you're watching for your rising sign, it's 0 to 20 degrees, anywhere in there for your rising sign degree. If you are a late degree placement, that will be the last 10 days of the sign or the last 10 degrees, so 20 to 29 degrees for your latter part there. Okay, so I'm calling the theme of this month for Leos, major spiritual insights. And this is coming from this energy in the 12th house. Okay, so eclipses, whether they're solar or lunar, can tend to bring things to light. Okay, so on a new moon, which is a solar eclipse, the moon is hidden. But the energy of the sun coming can bring these things to light. So something hidden, something that you've tucked away purposely. You can find riches and scary things in this dark place, the abyss of your subconscious mind. You know, things swept under the rug will basically tend to surface at this point. This is also related to your dream time. So dreams can become more meaningful, more vivid, lucid dreaming, work with hypnotherapy, hypnosis, past life regression, anything having to do with this cosmic soup where we're all one and taking things from the recesses of your mind. Also mastering your mind mastery could be a very, moving to the next level of mind mastery could be a way that this energy manifests. So we have infinite potential in our mind and we create from our mind. So, which is also our being, it's our subconscious energy, and our mind is not just in our head, it's in our body. So you can radically change how you create and manifest with this energy. You can have major spiritual insights. But you have to be brave and look in many cases, but sometimes it will just come whether you're looking for it or not. So fears can come up, great fears can come up. I call this a Harry Potter placement because he figures out that all these things, you know, these detrimental, dangerous things around him are here. And then once he rises to that, then nothing can hurt him or stop him or whatever, right? Because everything is projected from the inside out. So this is a major time of going deep, psychology, fears, addictions, finding the root of addictions. It is human nature to have addictions in one way or another. You know, we think about addictions as those having to do with substances or something like that, but the addictive realms are way beyond those sets of things that we think, you know. Love addiction, shopping addiction, you know, there's just food addiction. There's so many things in this realm. So finding the spiritual help and in some cases the physiological help and other support that you need to empower yourself may be part of this, this manifestation. So it's a great time for starting to meditate or going deeper into your meditations or doing anything that has to do with the angelic realms, the realms where people have crossed over in communication with these people or beings. Anything that's esoteric in nature is also very much supported with this, and you may see opportunities come up there. So if you're a later degree placement, you may see these things, but you may also see manifestations in the 11th house, which the theme of that I'm calling web of support. So things having to do with opportunities that again may wink to the past, even though they're new opportunities, that have to do with friends, acquaintances, groups, teams, humanitarian efforts, large organizations. internet or other futuristic innovation or internet-based projects. This could have to do with friends, friendships, acquaintances, social media, social groups, marketing, things like that. So you might see manifestations along those fronts. So have your eyes looking out for that. I'll go into more detail in the general transit about how to navigate these energies with the Mars retrograde, because if something new comes in and you have to lock it in, you want to understand how you can navigate around the impending backwards energies. So we're going to go into more of that now. So I'm calling the theme of June 2018 for all signs, the magical act of releasing attachment, with a sub-theme or sub-themes of recreation and recreation. This abundance of air energy this month is going to bring a lot of restlessness, this need to move, variety seeking, the urge to communicate and connect will be very strong. And there will be many opportunities for this as well. So trips, travel near and far, sparkling conversations, chances to connect with people online and in person, a lot of busyness. People often notice when the sun is in Gemini and at this time of year, we've got a lot of busyness. You know, you'll see that things are ramped up. You're here, you're there, you're moving around. There's lots of things that you're trying to pull together. And also interests and things can be coming up and could be all over the board. The urge to move and express will be increased from this energy, but for many people, the desire for movement will be towards recreation rather than productivity. And this is compliments of the impending Mars retrograde transit. We've been talking about this for a long time. I've been prepping you for this. And of course, you can look at my blog, Your Guide to Mars Retrograde, and you can look at my video on the topic. You can just put in Annie Botticelli Mars Retrograde, and you'll pull up my other resources to go deeper into this. But for the most part, for most people, ambitions start to wane. Okay, so the key theme that occurs so much in Mars retrograde is frustration. But it doesn't have to be that way. That only happens if you're trying to go at your usual pace in that transit that's not wanting you to do that. So if you take cues from what's happening and you stop trying to force things, like dropping your agenda, this is one of the reasons why I'm calling this, the theme this month, the magical act of releasing attachment. If you drop your agendas, then you can flow more. If you give yourself permission to chill, then the odds of frustration will be much less because you're not trying to push up against this wall of energy that's pushing backwards. So there are some people, however, that have the opposite effect when Mars is in retrograde. Mars rules movement, and some people, and how you use your energy, it rules the assertiveness, that get up and go, your oomph. So if you were born with Mars retrograde in your natal chart, you might have the opposite effect when Mars goes into retrograde. You might be what some people might call lazy or laid back or not ambitious most of the time. But then something crazy happens, maybe you haven't known what it was until now, then Mars retrograde comes and you get lit up while everybody else is going the other way. So that's why I always say, above everything, you have to honor your own personal flow and your intuition when you're listening to horoscopes, because there are always caveats to the general things that we share through horoscopes. So in any case, I always like to give you the heads up, because if you notice yourself getting what you describe as lazy, and then you're trying to give yourself a hard time about it, you can make this month and this transit, which runs from the end of June to the end of August, but really it started May 11th when the shadow period started, and it goes through the beginning of October. This is a long time. So if you understand this is going on, it's more likely that you can give yourself permission to relax. And if you give yourself permission to relax, pure genius can come to you when you're in that relaxed state. The way I like to describe the magic that can happen with this energy is with a typical story. I know myself, I've heard many situations where, let's say a couple is trying to have a baby and they're having trouble getting pregnant, and there's so much stress and there's pressure and they're putting it on and they're worried, and all of this energy is going towards this certain outcome. Then when they make the decision to adopt, sometimes they get pregnant. And the doctors chalk it up as the stress was released from the venture, right? So this is the energy that I want you to remember during this time, because a massive amount of magic, a massive amount of inspiration can come from that quiet time, like the Shavasana at the end of a yoga session. That quiet little short time of integration, of rest, integrates all of the work done prior. And very often when Mars is in retrograde, work that you've done before comes to you. So this energy of being like a spider, that's going to be a theme that continues for a while, where you've done work, now you're letting everything come to you, is a good one to follow. Now, if you do have some things that you have to push through, and you don't want to wait until December when we're done with Mars retrograde, then Mercury retrograde, then Venus retrograde, then there are some points here in June where you could do that. And my favorite days are right in the beginning of the month. But I'll go into more details about that. But if you do have some things that you have to push through and you feel that they're, intuitively it's time to do it, then you might be able to take advantage of that energy. Okay, so I really love this month for vacations, because this desire to rest and slack makes an increase in the possibility that you'll enjoy the vacation and you'll leave your worries and work behind. So if you are a traveler, or you're planning a trip, or you just like to read about travel stuff, you can check out my website, Astrology Kissed Travel Bliss. And I do monthly astrology travel reports so that you can understand some highlights as far as it relates to travel. And there are also fun blogs and inspiration for travel. There's a new moon on June 13th, and this is another increase in this opportunity for travel, adventures near and far, connecting with siblings, cousins, and other relatives. If you have to make a last-minute purchase of a communication device, if you know that coming soon your car or your phone or something is due to get, if you're due to get a new one, this time around, the beginning of the month or around this new moon of the 13th might be a good time to squeeze these things in, because Mars rules metal. And well, it's one of the, of course it's complicated, but things that are made of metal are under the rule of Mars. So buying machinery, utilizing machinery, and of course everything has metal in it, all of our devices. The energy is better for it when we're further away from the retrograde. So if you can help it, sometimes you might not be able to help it, in which case don't worry, just go with the flow. But if you know it's coming, you might want to take advantage of this time in the middle of the month. So increasing your recreation time is a great goal. If you're going to have any goals during this time, it would be goals to have more fun, and goals to relax, and goals to take vacations, and even goals to study, but in a laid-back, leisurely way. This is a time that can greatly favor education, but especially in flexible programs that allow you to go at your own pace, so that if you turn out to lose some ambitions, that you're not penalized. If you're interested in education that feels more like a hobby rather than a stressful obligation, then it's very well indicated during this Mars retrograde, because we could see that as part of a focus on recreation. You might notice a slowdown in work, finances, romance, etc. But like I said, there is an amazing chance for you to reap rewards from the past. So things may slow down in some senses, but things from the past could come to fruition now without you even doing anything, and it might seem quite magical. If you have to do some work-related things, it's better to focus on clients from the past, ideas from the past, things like that, if at all possible. These retrogrades tend to make things get called into question. So things that were set or intended may drastically change form during this time, or become irrelevant or uninteresting. So just notice the cycle, and just because something isn't, kind of goes away from your energy field at this time, it doesn't mean it's forever. I know I personally have Aries rising, and Mars rules Aries, so I notice that I'm very much affected by this transit. Everybody's affected by it, but people with Aries and Scorpio placements, strong Aries and Scorpio placements, and you notice it more because Mars rules Aries and co-rules Scorpio. But I've noticed that I just love this energy because it helps you to relax. And whenever this happens now, I plan my rests for this time. But if you didn't know that this were coming, you might think, wow, what is happening to me? I'm like this. So I feel like when Mars retrograde, like, wow, I'm never going to be ambitious again. That's so weird. And then as soon as Mars goes direct, I'm back to my normal ambitious self. You know, so it's just interesting to watch your own personal cycles with this. And as I mentioned before, you might have the opposite occur and notice that too. Learning astrology and using astrology is one big experiment, you know, and the more you learn about what's going on and then you pay attention to your personal flow with that, the more you learn about the art and the science. Okay, so many people are going to be questioning many things in life, but there will be a special focus for the job, profession, life path, because of the time that Mars is going to spend getting back into Capricorn. And since it spends most of the time retrograde in Aquarius, this strong focus on reconsidering or considering for the future, defining or redefining projects or relationships involving nonprofits, humanitarian efforts, technology, and other futuristic innovations, groups, things having to do with groups and teams and friends and friendships and acquaintances, social circles, and social media are all within this Mars and Aquarius energy. You might notice a lot of push and pull between home and work, home and family, mother and father, because we have a notable amount of oppositions between the Cancer and Capricorn energy. So this can bring a lot of overstimulation between home and family and work and your place out in the world. Overstimulation doesn't necessarily mean bad or good. It's just that there are opposing forces that are both demanding equal and extra focus, which can make you feel torn between these competing interests. But we do also have some great aspects with Uranus that can bring amazing insights and breakthroughs or happy surprises. So there are many times in this month where beautiful aspects are coupled with challenging ones. So good news and challenges could present simultaneously. You might see that going on. Okay, so the energy of this Cancer eclipse, we talked about where it would hit for you personally in your chart, but the general energy that everyone has this increased chance of experiencing is having to do with housing, home, and other family opportunities will likely be a dominating theme. There's something that a dermatologist said to me recently that I always wind up applying these random things to astrology, you know. So she said that there's an increase in skin cancer risk for people who have light-colored eyes, that there's something genetic about that relationship. Okay, so that doesn't mean that all people who have light-colored eyes are going to get skin cancer, and it doesn't mean that all people who don't have light-colored eyes are not. But this increase in probability is how I always frame astrology. There's an increase in probability of the things that these transits tend to bring. And it doesn't mean that everybody's going to experience these things that are common. It just means there's an increase in probability. You know, the odds are more likely, like on a day when the meteorologist says, rain is 90% today. Sometimes it doesn't rain, you know, but there's that increased chance. And that's what I want you to understand about the nature of these transits and the nature of these potentials. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of other dates to highlight this month. And if you want more details about dates and transits of note, then definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Sign up for my free email newsletter. You can also sign up at cozybysweetstarlight.com, which is where I also have written horoscopes, cozybysweetstarlight.com. If you sign up at either of those places for my free newsletter, I write a monthly write-up with more details about these general transits in a written version a month ahead than I give in the video. Okay, so it supplements what we're going to do here. If you have to do anything in June, important, money, love, you know, beauty choices, anything that you have to do, the creative projects, anything important. I love the first several days of the month. We've got beautiful Venus and Jupiter trine, and then Venus trines Neptune. So that's my favorite time of the month, besides the middle of the month, the 13th, with that new moon in Gemini. We've got a little bit of challenging energy after that, like the 5th through the 7th. Logic bumping up against intuition and some challenges there. Definitely take a moment to center yourself before walking, driving, biking, etc. And try to resist the urge to text while biking or text while walking or text while driving, because this energy increases the odds of accidents. You want to be paying attention more. There's another sweet spot here in the middle of the month where I told you the new moon on the 13th. And then there's a nice aspect between Mercury and Uranus, but at the same time, there's a challenging one with Venus and Uranus. And some other challenges there in the middle of the month. We've got another sweet spot, June 19th through the 20th, when Mercury makes a trine to Jupiter. And then we have Mars going retrograde on the 26th. When a planet goes retrograde, there's a lot of awkwardness. So just look out for awkwardness around that time. Then there's the full moon in Capricorn on June 27th, and this will bring completion, fruition, accomplishment, or drama into the realms of work, career, father figures, and your place out in the world. So those are the things that are most on my mind for this month. Definitely check out my websites, AnnieHelpsYou.com, if you're interested in learning astrology as a profession or just for your self-development. If you'd like to be a coach, I have a coach training program. I have an astrology apprenticeship program. I also have a course called Creating Successful Online Business, where I teach you how to create an online presence and funnel it into your services that will help you to live the life that you want and not be geographically bound. If you want written horoscopes that are focusing on different areas than the videos that I make, then go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. If you would like to get information about astrology travel reports that I write for each month, then go to astrologykissedtravelbliss.com. And definitely check out my husband's website, iamhelios.com, IAMHELIOS.com, for wonderful astrology and tarot readings. He also has some really cool free offerings on his site that bring sound vibrations that you can download that help to soften the energies of the current transits. So that's something really cool he's doing. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.